Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another episode on the Phoenix Generation podcast. My name is Samantha Romero. I'm a fourth year at the University of Central Florida. And today with me, we have a couple of guests. If you'd like to introduce your names and your schools.
Okay. Hi, guys. My name is Milani. I go to Lynn University.
Hi there, I'm Russell and recent alumni of Rollins College.
Hi, I'm Derek, and I go to Stetson University.
Yeah, so we have a couple familiar faces. Today we're going to be doing another segment of Agree/Disagree. We're super excited. We had such a fun time the first episode.
Yes.
So if you're not familiar, I'm going to ask a couple of prompts on these note cards I have here, and I'm going to ask everyone to show a raise of fingers. One being you disagree with the prompt, and then 5 being you strongly agree. So strongly disagree, strongly agree.
Okay.
But yeah, so are we ready to start?
Yes.
Let the
Okay.
disagreement begin.
Yes.
Let it begin. Okay. Right, so our first prompt. People are responsible for fact-checking news medias / articles.
Okay, 5 is disagree strongly.
5 is strongly agree.
5 is strongly agree, and 1
I'm
is
sorry?
I was saying, can you flip the question? Or this one?
Oh, okay.
Or-
secret.
So we have a 3. Can I see yours, please?
Oh, sorry.
No, worries.
You know, I'll go with 3.
What
Okay.
is 5 again?
Strongly agree.
Agree.
Mhm.
I'll give 3. Yeah, 3 makes sense.
You can
Show
show me
fingers
yours.
to the camera. Okay, cool. So can I have some explanations, please?
I mean, yeah, I think that if it's certainly like 100% like a subject you're interested about and you just are like passionate about the subject, then yeah, you probably should fact check, because we all know like the news media is never 100% correct and everyone will have their own bias. But then also, you know, you kind of trust news outlets to actually do that fact checking for you so that, you know, you don't have to go and do that on your own. But it's kind of like a mix. Like, I feel like people should do it on their own, but I know me personally, I do not do it on my own.
Mhm.
I don't go like out of my way unless it's something that I'm truly passionate about. Then I'm like, okay, well, hold on, let me type this into Google right quick and just see. But yeah, I think 3 is a good answer because it's like a medium. Like, we should pressure both the people and the news stations to fact check correctly before they like push their agenda out. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like a mix of responsibility where kind of as an informed citizen, and that's what we speak on when like people vote or when people engage in society, or even if you're going to like hold a specific belief. Like
Mhm.
technically, I wouldn't say lying is like a criminal offense, but like whenever we're in the court of law, like you're like pledging an oath of like your full honesty to the truest and most honest um, knowledge that you have. So it's like when we think about like incorrect information, I feel like it should be held to a very similar standard where like these things are important and people can make their decisions based on that. So kind of going with the prompt, I feel like it is a mix of both like the media's responsibility and the
Mhm.
individual. And that's where I feel like it's really useful with both school and with life, kind of just being like a transient skill
Mhm.
of that critical thinking and that common
Mhm.
sense of like we were all told growing up, if it seems too good to be true, it might be.
Right.
And so that's where like it can help as an individual citizen to kind of see, let's say if it's partisan news, sides from like both sides, just to kind of know like where's the bias coming in, like what sounds right, what sounds a little good too good to be true, and like what's kind of each party kind of holding like what court are they in at this given time. So especially when we're looking at things like financial news, because that's really popular right now with like some of the financial stuff we have in the world,
Mhm.
and then also like maybe some social justice related things. Those are just it's great things to keep informed of, but there have been some times in recent media where people have been exposed for coming out and not having the correct information or things being published out. And so that's where it would really be nice to have some more oversight on media and maybe even be reprimanded if you're like standing on business per se
Mhm.
Yeah.
and your business is totally wrong. Like that is
Right.
a very negative thing as a platform to do. So
Mhm.
kind of falling in the middle of that debate.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone has said everything, but I think there's a thin line between like no media outlets providing accurate information and people also knowing whether that information is accurate or not. Because I've seen so many instances where, like, let's say someone posts something, and I get more information from the comment section than I get from the article itself. Because
Mhm.
either the news station is trying not to either lean towards one particular idea that may probably be alleged and has not been verified yet, or either they don't have that information. So they also need to pull out a news because they need to make money. So they put out a news, the headline is vague, or the headline is misleading in a way. And you go to the comment section, it's like, oh no, that headline should be changed. You guys are trying to make it look like the other person is the bad person. This is what happened. So I feel like sometimes you just end up getting vague information from media outlets because they don't want to be sued if they put out something wrong. In as much as it's also their responsibility to fact check, sometimes they probably also don't have that information. So we should question whether they should publish something they don't have information about or not. But they do. But I also think people should also, knowing this fact, just take information as like something that probably is unfinished, and probably just wait a little bit more until you decide on like who is a criminal, who is the bad person in any context. But that's the next step most people don't do, and I think has to
Yeah.
be done.
And that's
Yeah.
the nice part about the legal process is like you're given that time in the court to like decide who's right, who's wrong, and kind of prove things. So I think kind of for both media outlets and individuals, like not jumping to conclusions because I mean something could be a hot take and the crime just
Mhm.
happened, but like that's why police have to like collect information and do an
Mhm.
investigation. So like it's hard to know who the bad guy is right there.
Due
So
process.
allowing us, yeah, to just
Mhm.
allowing us to kind of wait in patience and just like savor some of the information that's coming in. And I love the comment section aspect of like,
I feel like that
Yes.
is so true.
yes,
I read the comment
like
section
the
more than I
young
watch the
people of
video.
like Instagram and TikTok, like you're
Mhm.
clicking on the video and then you're swiping up and it's like, what's going on here? Like, what's the bias? Like, what are people picking up on?
Right.
And I think that's really just the power of free speech.
Yeah.
Of like, it's so nice to be able to have a comment section because I mean, you can have some BS in there, but like at the same time, like it's just a lot of different people's perspectives and you can kind of chew on it really quickly
Right.
and then see, oh, like everybody's saying like something's fishy about this. Like let me
Right.
have a little bit of reasonable
Yeah.
doubt.
Kind of like confirmed your
Yeah.
thoughts. Like, am I the only one that thinks it's a little iffy? Let me check the comment section. Oh, okay. I'm not the only one. They say it too.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not crazy.
I
Type
really
of
do like
vibe.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the general consensus is
It's a
be
thing.
cautious, do a little research.
Right.
But yeah, okay, cool. Got to see. Our next prompt is, well, I guess this kind of ties in on the topic of social media and news checking. Wait, let me rephrase that. As a I statement, I agree that social media should be more censored.
5 is. I'm sorry.
Five
Yeah.
is strongly agree.
5 is okay.
I would still give it a 3.
Okay, a 3.
So the 3 is in between, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, or 2.5.
Yeah, I'd go 2.
So are you gonna show your hand?
2.5.
2.5. Like yeah, like a slightly.
I'm in the middle for that.
That's fair. Okay, so 2.5 and then
What is that?
Spider-Man.
a 3? A 3?
Yes.
A 3.
You got it.
Okay, and then you were at a.
I'm gonna go with this 2.
So you guys don't think that social media should be more censored?
No, because let's take a look at what social media is putting out right now. Things that we would have never known. So like what's happening in Gaza, Sudan, Ethiopia, the Congo. Everything that our news is not publishing, we can find information about it on social media. The ship that just went to go render aid to the people in Gaza that got taken by the Israel occupational forces that just wanted to come and bring aid to Gaza, and they were captured, and it broke international law from them doing that. Nobody's covering that in the media outlets. So just think of all the information that we're finding on social media that we probably would have never known from that. So, and the topic of like it being censored on things that's happening in the world, no, I definitely don't think like that should be censored. But if we're talking about like cyberbullying and stuff like that in a sense, where it's like you are like repeatedly like hating on a person, hating on a person, hating on a person. So like when Instagram gives you those warnings like, hey, this is a triggering topic, let's not do that. Or like, hey, I can report you because you're harassing somebody online. So I think for like those parts of censorship, like for sure, like, make sure you're not like being mean to people. Like that form of censorship is like okay because again I said it last episode, but we're all first time humans here. We don't need to be hating on one another, especially on social media. You're hiding behind a screen. That's not like the way to do that. And then like with the news, I feel like some things could be censored, sure, but again, we have the right as a people to know what's happening in our world. But
I don't know. I had a different idea. Well, not a different idea because probably
Mhm.
it's the same. Because when you were explaining it, I was like, okay, one is the news and
Mhm.
one is like more of the censorship I was thinking. Because if you're controlling what kind of news should be made or not, I feel like in as much as that could be the broader definition of censorship, it probably leans a little bit towards like a different thing
Yeah.
than probably censorship in my mind.
Yeah.
Because news is news and news has to be told. And if the media outlets are independent, like that's, I feel
Mhm.
like that is news, and trying to control which story is made or not is like, it's in my mind, it's like in a different ballpark.
Mhm.
And censorship in my mind is more of like the languages you use, like hate speech sometimes,
Mhm.
because sometimes you just know if something's gonna happen through the way people constantly communicate on their platforms. And I've heard instances where some people are like questioned based on like just what they post.
Mhm.
To me, that is what I thought about when you read the question about censorship. And I think there should be some level of censorship, just like how we have rules as to this is a sidewalk and this is like bike
Mhm.
lane. Just like general guidelines that make everyone's life
Yeah.
better online. For instance, for me, if I see something online that is like, I personally have an opinion about it, I don't see the need to go to the comment section and spew that dislike. It's like I see it, I have
Mhm.
my opinion, I move on until like, but some people just like immediately they have a very negative thing in their mind about something they see, they just go straight and spew that negativity over there. Like sometimes there's just some guidelines, and I think some of those guidelines exist,
Mhm.
but is it enforced enough for people to kind of like stay within the safety zones for everyone to have like a good experience online? That's what I was thinking about censorship. So like that's why I'm in the middle. I think there should
Yeah.
be some guidelines as
Okay.
to like
Yeah. Yeah. I
who
can
can
agree
use
with that.
online.
Yeah, I like the thought of it kind of falling in the middle
Mhm.
of like checks and balances. So when we think about a lot of organizations or governments is really run that way, where it's not like a one size fits all. And I can understand the school of thought of like the news kind of being in a separate place because while it's come on social media, like it wasn't really the initial design of social media way back in the
Mhm.
early Facebook and MySpace days were to have, oh, like let's have news articles on here. It was really just like connect with your family and friends, dialogue, post what's going on, etc. So just to kind of keep to that nature of things, I am not really a strong advocate for certain social media or current social media, but I find that I'm a little bit impressed with kind of how Instagram and Facebook, for example, have taken things where they have like kind of in the right now, because I mean, even previously during the pandemic, there were some issues but like right now, it seems like there's a lot of tools that are built in where you have like the this is sensitive content side, or you have this is potentially incorrect content. You have in the comment section, like when there's really hateful comments, it kind of goes in the hidden side. And I feel like that's something that it's not really it's not really a question to it. It's fairly easy to tell if something's kind of coming off as hateful or not. And so I think that like it can still exist there. It's not like being deleted, but it's not really just showing up and like at the top of your page. And I can appreciate that. And then kind of in a similar sense, um, big issues I'm seeing with social media and just improper activity is, I mean, in the world of AI right now, like bots and things have only become more prevalent. And so you have misinformation that's being spewed out, but then also you have bots that are attacking people or comment sections or certain types of things that's swaying actual organic activity. And that seems like something that kind of needs to be taken out of the equation just because it's not true real human activity. And so if I wanted to communicate with computers, like I could just go into metaverse. Like
Mhm,
true.
it's not actually actual organic human interaction. And I
Right.
so think some of those influences kind of need to be taken out of social media, especially because you're not really finding it in the positive side of things. Um, and then I would say separate to that, like on the news aspect of such, it's nice to have that like really well-rounded approach, and I think that that's kind of what needs to be curated more. And firmly, like personally, like a firm believer in some of those independent news outlets because like in the last couple of years, that's where we've gotten some of the like the juiciest stories or like some of the investigative journalism that's not really come out, and so having a place for maybe something like that on social media is nice where like people don't have a huge platform and so these things can like be shown to the public, um but then again like trying to stay away from like any sort of censorship but just truly giving it a platform just like people have a platform or anything else.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, and I really like that reference to like the kind of like the guidelines as a toolbox
Right.
because I do appreciate sensitive content and some things can be triggering and like it's not a complete censorship, it's just you have the choice to kind of see if you want to view this or not.
Right.
And like you said, it's very obvious when like information is hateful or incorrect, even when it's like, oh, you like should fact check this. I don't know. I
Yeah.
appreciate those things. That's
Yeah.
just my
like a little hey, letting you know.
yeah,
By the way,
letting you know, but you
type
still
of
have that
vibe.
option to view it. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
We
always
we
view
love
it.
options.
Yeah.
We love options.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for
but
sure.
yeah, okay, cool. Sounds good. Now, our next topic is going to be next prompt. There should be a limit on how much money one person can make. Can I have a show of fingers, please? Remember, 5 is strongly agree.
Okay, hold on. I gotta ponder this one.
Yeah, I mean, I could create my own rules.
hmm Okay, strongly disagree.
What is the one strongly disagree?
Yeah,
Oh, what? 5 is strongly agree.
a yes.
Okay. I'll go with a 5.
Okay.
No.
A 3. A hesitant 3.
Chat, I don't know.
So we have a strongly
Well, that's because in my mind I just created a utopia, so.
I'll go 3.
Okay, so we're like kind of like neutral, like we're in between.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start
Can I
with the
start with
odd
you?
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do you.
I would love to
Let's
hear
see
your
what you have to
take.
What's the
say.
prompt again? There should be a limit to how much money one
Person can make. That's
Um,
correct.
I feel like if the the playing field is leveled and everyone has that same opportunity to get that as much money,
hmm
why should there be a ceiling if everyone can make that much money?
So you
That is a utopia, though.
so you
I did
disagree.
say it's a utopia.
So you disagree with the prompt.
I'm
There
saying
should,
there shouldn't.
but this one says there should be a limit.
That's why I disagree.
So you
Oh,
would
so
do
one, yeah. So what? Is it the
You're
numbers?
good, you're good.
Numbers. I don't.
No,
I'm not
I
good with
get
numbers.
that.
Yeah, because I mean that's a utopia I created in my mind though. Because in reality, we've always seen that like, oh, all animals are equal, but there are others who are more equal than others.
Mhm.
And I've not seen a history or a time where like being so rich has not directly impacted or taken from others who are like, because the system is set up in such a way that you buy labor from other people, you pay them a salary, and your kind of riches is dependent on how less of a salary you pay them and how much more you gain from them. Like that's what the system is. But if we're in a utopia and everyone could equally make that amount of money, why should we limit anyone? I mean, I want to make as much money as possible.
Mhm.
And I don't feel like anyone should limit me if I'm doing it in a legitimate legal way. But then in reality, legitimate is questionable. So
Right.
You make good points though. It's
Yeah.
No.
nothing is black and white. It's always a gray area.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the thought of, I mean, going with statistics in current years, we've seen like a really big disparity between the lowest 1% and the like highest 1%. And I think that like when you're looking at standard deviation or like statistics or just even like information modeling, it seems like this growth has just really been prominent. And we see that when we look at investments as well. So the most recent stat is, I believe, 93% of people, no, the top 10% own 93% of the stock market. And so when we think about like everybody else, granted, like investments are a really good tool for holding wealth and being able to like move funds and pass on generational things. And I feel like at that point in time, it makes things a little questionable of, sure, we're all doing well. And I think that at face value, being able to be awarded for the amount of work and the amount of effort, but then also the skill you bring to the table can be useful most of the time. But when I think about like these large extremes of money, and then kind of the initiatives behind it, or even just how a lot of the 1% individuals can really pay a lot less in taxes. I think that's where things get a little questionable. Just knowing that in general in the world, like we can pick a country, we can pick a topic of issue, and there's large numbers of people that are just out there in disparity or being impacted by negative things or just basic life outcomes that they're not able to have. And so, without adopting a totally different governmental mindset, I think that being able to put some sort of like ceiling or some sort of recalculated tax or just recalculated income statement for some of those 10% and 1%ers, I think would be something that would be useful. Just being that you've also found people in some of those groups that have advocated for said thing, even though they've benefited well from the economic system. So I think that at that point in time, it really could be useful versus trying to adopt a flat tax or something like that, just being that people don't use resources equivalently to one another. And I'm not sure which school of thought it is, but the one thing that really resonated with me strongly was this idea of using land tax as this vehicle for primary taxation in the United States, being that like ownership of land and ownership of property as a result is a huge equivalent for wealth. And so being able to use that because like land can be useful in different spaces and have more value in certain senses. But I think that having it versus not having it is the big differentiator. And so being able to put a tax on something like that and maybe less on some of these other miscellaneous things that we have can help with some of the current problem of housing, but also when you find individuals that have 5, 10, 15, 1,000 properties under their name, that's something, and that's kind of a place to live for somebody else that could be taken away. And so being able to have some sort of appropriate tax, because even if you're making income on that said thing, it shouldn't be an issue if it's being taxed. But it's also taking away that resource from the greater good.
A
No.
lot to digest.
No,
To
literally.
digest.
Like, hold on, let me
Let's sit with that.
let me think.
Take a pause to
Right.
process that.
Let's let it marinate.
That's a good take. I was trying to follow along. I'm like,
It was like, wait. It was like, okay. Yes.
Cut the show.
It was like, hold on. No, but like I think both of you all made like really good points. I think that like originally when the question was asked in my head, I was like, I mean, like, who cares about like how much money like an individual can make? Because it's not really my place to say, hey, stop. You've made too much money. You need to not make money anymore. Because if you think about it, like, no matter how much money you have, you're never going to be able to spend that much money in a lifetime. So it's kind of just like, okay, cool. You know, you made your money. You're building generational wealth. So I can't be mad at you for that because that's what we all kind of want to do. We all kind of want to build that generational wealth, but kind of bringing it back to what you said, it was like, did you do that legitimately? That's the question. That's the actual question, because if we're making too much money at the expense of other people, okay, then that's a little question. That's a little question. Okay. But then you gotta kind of think about it. Like, aren't we all kind of making money at the expense of other people unknowingly and knowingly? Like, you know, people are working hard for like the clothes that we have on. We're buying them, and you resell them. You're making money. But like, let's think about like the children that might have made these clothes that we're wearing or something like that. So we're all kind of making money at like the expense of other people. And I think there's definitely a fine line in between, kind of like what you said, where it's like, okay, now you're doing too much. But now it's like who kind of just thinking of like, who am I to tell you that you've made too much money? Like that, I just feel like that's just not my place, because yes, it's kind of what both of you said. Like, it's not an equal playing field. There's a large gap. It's a huge gap. It just continues to grow. There's no like there hasn't been any shrinking of that gap. Is instead it's just continue to widen and widen and widen. So it's like if the playing field was even, then kind of like what you were saying, going into that utopia, we were all able to make as much money as we could want, but that's not the world we live in today.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just like, I wish it was kind of like that.
Mhm.
Like everybody had the same and equal opportunities. That'd be great. But instead of like equality, we're looking at equity, and that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, you're making your money,
Mhm.
Go ahead. You do you, but like, don't be mean, kind of like
I
do
don't
it
know.
legitimately.
So another
I don't
gray
know.
area.
I don't
Yeah, it's
think
gray.
I don't think that utopia will ever truly be achieved though.
No.
Because human beings,
No
I don't
way.
know, there's this thing that we were trained with. Is it trained because we did debate some time ago, and like they kind of train you to know that human beings have a self-interest nature, like just
Mhm.
natural.
100%.
So like you're trying to get your friend to do something, but then they don't really seem like they want to do it until you say, "Oh, you could also benefit from this."
Mhm.
So it's like so long as human beings have that self-interest nature, this is not selfish because it takes if you go over the edge, that's when you but self-interest nature. So long as that still kind of lingers in, someone will always be looking in their best interest. And in some instances, that best interest takes over where you look out more for what you gain from a contract, a deal, or an offer than what you think the other person loses because you're looking after yourself.
Mhm.
And kind of, I think society has grown to the extent where like everyone is like me, not about like us or we. It's always about like me. Like your house is different, your lawn is different. Like don't walk on my lawn. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone is just has moved to a point where it's that nature has taken center and front stage. That I think that utopia where like everyone is on the playing equal field. I mean, we all still have our own selfish interests. So I don't know, but hopefully we get to utopia. We make as much money as possible.
Buy an island. That's what I want.
And start Love Island and go
No,
on
no,
Island.
no, no.
Or maybe
Imagine.
Squid Game.
That's scary.
Not
Stop,
true.
no.
Not
That's
true.
scary.
I think that one book in school that we had to read where like people like killed themselves. The something game.
The Hungry?
No.
I was
I
like,
was
it was
like,
middle
what?
school.
The Lord of the Flies is when they're on
Oh
the
my
Maybe.
god, I read that.
Maybe.
I mean, they didn't have to
Anyways.
kill each other, but like they.
No, they lived on the island
Lived
and
on the
Yeah,
island.
it was like somebody that
bro,
lived on an
them
island
kids,
and they like
bro.
managed everybody and they like it was a cool sport to like watch people like fend for themselves and die.
I feel like that's Lord of the
I think
Flies.
I think that was it.
Lord of the Flies?
Yeah.
Bro, shout
'Cause
out
I had
to
to
my
read that in middle
teacher.
school.
Crazy.
I had to read that in high school.
Deep.
That was the first book I had to read, and not the first like ever book I had to read in high school, but like the first book my teacher made me read, and I was just like, "What do you have me listening to?" And then as you got it further into it, I was just like, "God dang, they're just kids! They're just kids! Somebody rescue them!"
Love Island, the remake.
Literally the remix. Nobody would survive. Next question.
Segue. Before we talk about everything. Okay.
No, literally.
Okay, cool.
Alright.
So, our next prompt. Youth and their voices are valued in society.
Sorry, didn't mean to laugh.
I think that was a clear indication of where Milani lies.
No, because it's like
Anyways.
no, literally like child. Anyways, I'm gonna give it since we're on me. I'm gonna give it a 3 because I'd like to think that our voices are valued, but let's be for real.
Let's be real.
I think I'll also give it a 3.
Okay.
And should I just give my comments and then?
Yeah, no, please, yeah, I want to hear.
I heard someone say that people keep saying like we are the leaders of the future. The leaders of the future keep postponing as much as possible. We are technically the leaders of today because this is our generation. But you're kind of always still saying, yeah, you will lead sometime in the future. What about
Right.
now? So in a way, it's like they take what you're saying, but you're like, yeah, it'll happen soon enough.
Mhm.
So like, I think it's still in between, and you kind of have to always look like the difficult one for, let's say, to pierce through that barrier that's saying you are for the future and not for the present. But it is what it is.
Okay. Russell.
Seems like this kind of I don't want to do 3 again. 'cause I'm
Yeah.
like,
A lot
3
of
is
these,
just
a
a
lot of
good
these are like,
number.
complex like topics. Though.
basically. But I would say it kind of comes down to this like the voices of like young people
Yeah.
and where's that fall? And it's kind of this battle between with people that have been on the earth longer, like more experience, more maturity, and more wisdom.
Yeah.
I would say wisdom over maturity.
Mhm.
So that's kind of this battle between that aspect, and then with younger people, like fresher perspectives, and then lack of being jaded of certain things. Like
Okay.
young people are less likely to, let's say, be burned in the world, or just um, have been affected by certain negative things, and so you can maybe see things with more optimism, or just different perspectives that aren't based on what you've unconsciously consumed, or limiting beliefs, or what your parents, coworkers, friends have told you for being on the earth many years. And so you can kind of be a little bit more open-minded. And so I would really like to believe that young people's voices should be heard more.
Mhm.
But I can see some of the value in wisdom of, like, you've lived life, you've had experiences, you've seen things before, kind of like
Yeah.
history of like
Mhm.
learn from history, history repeats
course.
itself.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I think that some of that unconscious bias really can come into someone that has been on the earth longer and jade some of their perspectives, or those limiting beliefs come in and influence what they're actually going to say or what they think.
Okay.
That's true.
Yeah. I like that term, jaded, and like
Mhm.
burned from the world. It gives different perspectives. So how do we all feel about? Have you ever heard like, oh, Gen Z's lazy, Gen Z doesn't want to work? I mean, because we're all Gen Z here, so I'll
Yeah.
like put it to. I mean, each generation down, I feel like says that.
Yeah.
But so when I hear that topic of like our voices or youth valued, I just always jump back to a lot of like Gen X or like
Love it.
boomers saying that Gen Z can be a little lazy. How do we
No.
feel about that?
Okay,
Bro.
boomer.
No, right, literally.
Get
Let me
in.
no. No. No, really quick. Let me clarify my laughter. I was laughing not because it's funny, but it's kind of like what everybody was saying. Like,
Yeah, no.
I think our voices matter to younger people, but the older generation, it kind of falls on deaf ears because, like you were saying, they're like, "Oh, you'll lead soon. Why not now?"
Not quite
So the
ready yet.
fact that when people say like, "Oh, we think Gen Z is lazy," it's kind of just like, it's funny to me when people say that, because we're not doing it the way that you would want us to. Like, you
Okay.
want us to like sit down, be quiet, allow it all to happen, but
Gen Z's
so
not quietly going into the
no,
night.
Gen Z is not quietly
We're
going
not.
anywhere. Okay, so the fact that we're using our voices, kind of, I don't know. I think it's kind of just like, because we're not doing it the way they would see it, they kind of want to call it lazy.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Perhaps unconventional.
Yes,
Mhm.
that's a good word to put it. We're unconventionally Gen Z, and they don't like that. So
Even touching on last week's podcast, like some of the societal norms and conventions, and even just like the traditional way of life has been shaken up so much in the last 10, 20 years that like
Mhm.
we've seen with young people, kind of how we closed out last episode was, I really find the beauty in young people being able to like change the status quo, or think about things differently, or
Mhm.
just share an opposite
Literally.
perspective.
Can
And
they
I
hear
think
me?
that this kind of falls in with it too, of like,
Yeah.
I mean, at face value, we can't disagree that like technologically we've advanced so quickly in the last 20 years. Like it's a totally different world of how we learn, how we grow up, how we seek entertainment. Like, and those are the basic things of someone's childhood. And so we can't expect that these people are going to walk into adulthood and then be that same person, or that same worker, or that same voice at the table. Like it's going to be different because of their inputs as a child. And so I really like to see that with like leadership and just voices, because it's nice that we don't have to feel as constrained to like just staying in our bubble. But at the same time, this this order of operations in the world of like get a job, like go to school, all these things, buy a
Mhm.
house, have kids, like live your life, has really been shaken up, and like
Mhm.
I wouldn't say taken away from us, but it's been molded differently. And
Yeah,
so
for
with
sure.
that,
rerouted.
yes.
Type of vibe,
So, like, if the game has changed, like the player has to change too, and you have to be
Right.
more creative. And
Yep.
also, like, I get that there's a limiting number of resources out there, but at the same time, like, if we can't live by the way that our parents grew up and follow that same game plan, then we shouldn't really be expected to be the same people, or to have the same perspectives, or act the same way, because the game's different. So you have to adopt and change the rules.
Yeah. Dynamics are always shifting, as we can see.
Mhm.
But yeah, thank you guys for that beautiful insight.
That was a great question.
Yeah, and I'm glad that we can end it off there.
Yeah, literally, they're like,
That was a good closing question.
Chestnut checkers.
Yep. Yeah, so to wrap it up, I just want to say thank you again to Milani, Russell, and Derek for joining us on this episode for Agree
Pleasure.
/ Disagree. Let me see a closing question. How do we feel? I mean, well, Derek, this is your
okay.
first time.
Yeah.
This is your first time on this
Welcome.
segment. But
Okay.
for our returning guests, and then I will ask you a different question. How do we feel about, I don't know, the dialogue that we had today? Because we've done this before, but
I
how are we feeling?
liked it. You know, I
Mhm.
loved our dialogue from last week and like this was great as well. Like I just love being able to have the position or like the power to kind of talk about things that, you know, people may kind of shy away from. And the fact
Yeah.
that we did in all those questions was
Mhm.
like, I feel like,
Mhm.
you know, we're kind of doing our part as like Gen Z, you know, using our voice. And like when people see it, it's kind of like there are people out here who are talking about it. So
Yeah.
let's talk about it, you know?
Mhm.
So, you know, I love talking, so
Yeah.
you know, I had a great time.
And we love listening to you, so thank you.
Yeah, I would say this week it was a little bit less like countercultural perspectives. Like it was just funny how we all kind of landed towards that middle of the
Mhm.
of the
Yeah.
1 to 5.
Yeah, I've noticed
Um,
that too.
Yeah, and like
Mhm,
it's nice to
mhm.
have a mix of things. So I would say like cool conversation of things, like really trying to think because like I not to say that I want to take a stance of like more like extreme, but like it's some of these issues are really hard to describe where like where do you fall and like what is a true solution if it's
Mm.
not let's censor everything or
Mhm.
let's like limit somebody's income or let's like change the way that leadership is coming. But like just being able to meet at the middle, and I think that's the real lesson today of just being able to come together,
Literally.
Yeah.
see each other, and just see the beauty and being able to come to that middle part.
Write that down, write that down, write
Beautifully
that down.
said. Thank you.
Yeah, write that down.
Yeah,
Somebody write that down back
there.
Podcast notes.
Oh,
Yes.
I'll just piggyback on what the two of them said. Is more of like how almost everyone came to like the number 3 is because like that's us. That's the generation now. We don't really want to see black and white. We see the gray area, and we see that everyone is more inclusive in that gray area, and that's what we seek out for. So I guess it's good to have room like this to just expand that gray area as much as possible
Yeah.
and see what the possibilities are.
Mm.
Mm.
I love that.
Mhm.
I love that.
Awesome.
That yeah. Snap.
Yeah,
They're snapping in the
Parting
back.
words from
you know,
Derek.
literally.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you to everyone who tuned in today for our episode. We're so grateful to have you as viewers, and we look forward to seeing you next time, whichever that may be.
Yeah.
Bye,
Bye.
Later.